Josh, millennials are stressing over the next chapter of their life.
Is it retirement?
No, 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 it's actually something else.
Oh,
Something in the
okay.
middle.
Oh, okay.
The midlife crisis. Millennials are now at the point where they're thinking about midlife crises.
There's so many crises. The first quarter life crisis, now midlife
Just
crisis.
in crisis.
Just all the time in crisis.
Well, good for you or bad for you,
Hmm.
but millennials are finding out that they can't afford to have a midlife crisis.
Uh, that is a hard pill to swallow.
Yes, so it looks like a majority of millennials are finding out that they can't afford to have the traditional midlife crisis.
That
So,
that's kind of crazy.
when I say midlife crisis, what do you think?
I would assume like maybe in the 40s or 50s,
Mhm.
midlife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and
What does that mean to you?
Um, typically what I think of midlife crisis, I think of people buying like these expensive cars or
Hmm.
people making these like outlandish purchases. That's typically what
Okay.
I think of
Mhm.
when I think of midlife crisis. Yeah.
And do you think you're ready ready to do all that?
I 100%, everything is too expensive.
That is also very
Everything is
true.
way too expensive.
Well, we have additional things to talk about. We'll get more into what we're showing up here, the millennial experience, and why we think that there might be issues of
Mhm.
getting to that traditional midlife crisis after you consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button. We come out with interesting topics like this one all the time. So make sure to hit that subscribe button to hear more. But it looks like the millennial experience is a lot of times centered around debt. So if we look right here, all of these are things that will get you in a large amount of debt, especially the graduate degree. If you get a degree,
Yeah.
that's like already a lot of money.
So you start off with debt, continue building on debt.
Yeah, so you start off here. Well, maybe you get a credit card while you're at school. So you have your credit card building debt. And
Mhm.
then you get your degree, more
Yes,
debt,
more
a
debt.
lot of debt, like probably
And
depending on school where
and
you
then you
go.
purchase in a car with
Yeah,
is
or during college you purchase a car.
you know what's so crazy is when you think about some of the things that have happened recently with a lot of the cost, the percentages of borrowing money being
Hmm.
so high now, especially for like a
Yeah.
lot of these things. It's kind of crazy because everything is, like I mentioned, getting too expensive. Everything like especially over the last few years, it's been like
Hmm.
this.
I mean, like tuition's going up, the price of cars has skyrocketed,
Hmm.
and I mean, like it's not cheaper to borrow money now.
Hmm.
Even, like I
Interest
think
rate,
interest
yeah.
rates have gone down, but not to the point where it's cheap by any
Hmm.
means. And if you bought a car within the last few years, it's still pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So it looks like a lot of times or the millennials are saying that they are not where they thought they'd be at this point in their life.
I could 100% understand that, especially because there's also been so many other external factors that have played a lot into this.
Yeah. And I do think that I think it's like a comparison thing
Hmm.
where a lot of the millennial parents are like baby boomers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
where um at least the older part where they're like in the 40s, they compare themselves to that, and it's like the I
Hmm.
guess the generational gap between like the older millennials and like in their 40s to their parents when they were in their 40s is like
Hmm.
drastically different, and like the expectations are much different.
Yeah, and I do think that I've seen a lot of different posts too that say it's like if you were at your parents' age, like 20, 30 years ago, it's or like 30, 40 years ago, it would be like you would need to make the equivalent of like 100 to 200 grand.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which
it's
is
pretty.
it's pretty crazy.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is that a lot of the like buying a house, one, I think before the idea of home ownership wasn't so much as like
You
And
could buy you
before
you could
it was cheaper.
you could buy a home working at a grocery store, but
Mm-hmm.
now there's a lot of videos out there that you see that they're like, I work two jobs and I can't afford a house because things
Yeah.
are too expensive.
There's that, and I think a lot of like things are in demand in terms of like there's a lot more scarcity in the market, at least housing market, because it
Hmm.
became more and more of an investment over
Yeah,
time. So
that's
like
true.
now, like when Wall Street started buying up land and buying up all the houses,
Hmm.
or making the mortgages
Hmm.
also an investment.
Yeah, that is true. We did have the housing crisis.
Hmm.
Yeah, which is kind of it's a world changing event, life changing event.
Hmm.
Lots of things like that.
Yeah. So an interesting point here is that 62% of millennials do not feel financially stable. I was like, okay, yeah,
Hmm.
that makes sense. Because I mean, in terms of the overall American experience, is that a majority of Americans have a lot of credit card debt or just in general this debt.
Yeah.
Um, the younger generations are like saddled with credit card debt and educational debt,
Hmm.
but also now we're seeing that the older generations that were somewhat like they have a lot of assets in terms of like maybe like a house or something. However, now they're getting to the point where now it's like retire they're in their retirement, but they're finding out that the retirement is not enough to pay for like
Hmm.
potential hospital bills and stuff. So there's like a lot of different like types of debt,
Yeah,
colors of debt.
it is interesting because another thing that I heard is that like the younger generation, like Gen Z,
Mm-hmm.
has quicker access to information,
Yeah.
which the millennials didn't have as well. So they get
Mm-hmm.
somewhat of a leg up with the easy access of information because most
Like what?
millennials grew like for the internet.
Like
Well,
what are they gonna do?
yeah, but I'm just saying it's like
What is the information gonna do for a
they
Gen Z person?
they could invest in crypto.
Invest in
They
crypto?
can invest in crypto.
They
That's
can
a
go and make brain rot.
oh god. But overall, I think like when they come to this situation, I feel like it's probably gonna look a lot different.
Mm-hmm. Uh, I think they're gonna have different like a different crisis, and we'll probably talk about it in a different video or like maybe a bit. Um, but it looks like millennials will have a midlife crisis.
Hmm.
However, it's gonna look a lot different than buying a sports car, supposedly, and it's
Yeah, these are
starting. I mean,
all.
like, okay, first, like, switch careers. I'm like, I could see that,
Hmm.
where you know,
You're tired of the
you're starting
current,
where you
yeah.
are, but I feel like, as that's like
That's a
start. Yeah, I mean, like, started with
switching
Gen,
career is hard, by the way, too.
like Gen X,
Yeah.
then like well, then the millennial. So like a lot of different roles have you, or like the idea is that you move around to like move up. You move out of your company to move up. So
Yeah, but it's typically like vertical, right? It's
well, within the same
yeah.
job field. I guess
Yeah.
this probably more in terms of like completely changing to a different aspect, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and then attend therapy. If you aren't attending therapy, that is one of those things that you will apparently do.
Hmm.
Which is, I mean, there's nothing
I could,
wrong with it.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but I also could see that this not being like a midlife crisis that older generations have had attending therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I guess in like from what I think about midlife crisis for our older generations, like what I mentioned, it's like buying cars,
Mm.
going on trips, spending a lot of money. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
don't,
different.
it's
I don't think
different. Yeah, it's,
if you have no money to spend, you can get into more debt, I guess.
oh,
But I mean,
yeah.
I do think that one is more of a cultural shift in terms of um how appropriate it is or culturally acceptable it is to attend therapy. Because I think
Hmm.
before it was like a stigma to not attend therapy,
Hmm.
but there's more access to therapy and stuff. So then you have change your appearance. That seems like more interest like
That seems kind of in line.
yeah,
Like if
in
you're buying
line.
new clothes and stuff like that.
Impulse shopping, yeah,
Yeah, that's
like
same.
shopping therapy, consume more alcohol.
Uh, I don't that one. It might be similar to older generations, but I'm not too sure.
Um,
Yeah,
I
consume
mean,
more
like
alcohol.
consume more alcohol might be different because it's like a um, different thing surrounding it. Because like
Yeah,
you're consuming alcohol because you're on vacation.
yeah, that's true.
You're sipping mai tais on the beach. Break up with a significant other. I guess that's just kind of
These are
That's like
huge life changing
yeah,
events.
that's true.
These
Yeah,
are huge life changing events.
move somewhere new. I mean, if
That's
you're like
also very,
really
very,
big,
yeah,
yeah. I
fairly
mean,
big.
new start,
Yeah.
gain weight. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that's fair, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Then travel. I mean, yeah, I guess travel. I mean, I do think that a lot of times the goals for a lot of millennials are different, or like younger generations is different, where instead of having like a house or some physical asset, because they would go and do more.
Traveling.
Well,
Yeah.
there is like
I
buying stuff, changing appearances, like
yeah.
doing more experience based activities
Things.
or like things.
I've heard about that
And
where
then
it's like people want to travel more because they're like, well, I will never be able to afford a property, so
yeah.
it's like I'd rather travel and look at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of leading to the whole renter society,
Mhm.
and it kind of leads to like you can never own. But then like part of it's like there's the whole idea that you buy. I don't know. It's a tough one because
Mhm.
thinking about it's like, oh, you start with your starter house and you have to buy another house after that house. And it's
Yeah,
like,
that's
oh,
true. That is
and
true.
each time you're like using a lot of capital to fund this whole thing. And it's
Mhm.
like if you're
If you're a renter, you don't have to worry about all
yeah,
that.
you don't have to worry about that. But I mean, like, if your goal is not to have a house, like, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
To each their own. And then the last one is a new hobby, and I feel like
I,
during the pandemic, a lot of people just picked up the most
yeah,
random hobbies.
that's true. But that's because they were indoors.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
forced to be indoors. But I mean, I
Yeah.
think people still have a lot of
I feel like that's a
random
help. I
hobbies
feel like people should also try to pick up new hobbies.
in
Not in
general.
general. Yeah, in general. Not only like for midlife crisis. I think it's
Mhm.
probably healthy for people to pick up new hobbies.
Okay.
Hmm.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you're a millennial, do you see yourself somewhere on this 1 to 10 area for your midlife crisis? I think probably traveling will be one, probably a hobby.
Maybe
Um
change appearance
what?
for if you're having crisis or
Oh,
something.
no,
Yeah,
yeah, if that's what you're gonna do.
yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, if you're older, do you think that are you able to have a quote unquote midlife crisis, or did you ever have one? But yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below.